Thank goodness I was able to stop and not hit that moose or lose control of the car. Right now, the roads are incredibly icy. When I last spoke to you, I was heading down to Anchorage to help out a friend of mine from Barrow who had some projects to do on the southern side of the state. The night before I left to come into Anchorage, there were winds of 40 to 45 mile an hour at the cabin. In Anchorage, they were experiencing winds of up to 100 miles an hour, which caused a lot of tree damage and structural damage, and then rains, which caused some flooding. Now that I'm heading home, though, the roads are incredibly slick. I'm only able to drive about 40 miles an hour at this point. However, as you'll see as I progress, the snows have increased and the temperatures began to drop to sub-zero temperatures. And that works to my benefit. Well, those lower temperatures means that ice has now become sticky, which provides a lot more traction for my tires. And I'm able to drive at about 50 to 55 miles an hour for the remainder of the trip home. Now that I'm home, I need to fill up the truck with some gas. It has been parked in the same spot since early October. And with the weekly warming up of the vehicle where I turn it on and let it heat up for about 15 to 20 minutes, it has burned through all the fuel in it. So while it's warming up though, I'm gonna take a moment and survey the property and see if I can find any damage from the windstorm that I had before heading down to Anchorage. This tree here looks like it had some damage. You can see the darker spot right here. And there are some holes in the side of the trunk, which was probably caused by spruce beetles. However, in this area, we don't really have a problem with spruce beetles, but we do have a lot of carpenter ants. So it could have been those. However, this tree then brought down this smaller tree, and over there, a much larger tree, probably about 50 to 70 feet tall, was taken down by the wind as well. I've not surveyed the rest of the property. But the spruce beetles have caused a lot of damage, and along with pine beetles, throughout all of America, in the northern hemisphere. Here in Alaska, we mainly have spruce though, and the spruce beetles have done more damage on the western side of the state than they have here. And I'm not exactly sure why they haven't really settled in here. I'm fortunate that they haven't. My assumption is because of how cold it actually gets here. This part of Alaska can get a couple of weeks where we have temperatures ranging from about -40 to -60, lasting, like I said, for 1 to 2 weeks at a time. And that might be cold enough to kill them off or stave them off from creating the amount of devastation that they have elsewhere in the state. But I can tell you that I'm really glad that I had all the other trees from around the cabin taken down. When I first bought the cabin, there were trees really close to the cabin itself. And while they were beautiful to look at when you first drove up, they also blocked the view of the mountains that set behind the cabin. But my biggest fear was that these trees were going to blow over and crash into the cabin itself, just as the trees I showed you earlier. However, there was another thing about these trees that really scared me, and that was that they could potentially cause the cabin to catch fire if there was a forest fire. This big cottonwood I felled when I first got here, though I didn't get it on film. These trees that are on the south side here, you can see how skinny they were. And when I first arrived, there were two of them that had actually blown over that I had to cut up and remove. And then on the north side of the cabin, same thing. These trees are just so tall and so skinny, and you can see how much they're moving in the winds here. And these winds were about 30 miles an hour at the time. But as I mentioned, a forest fire is definitely one of the reasons why I decided to remove all these trees. The work has begun to start clearing the property of some of the trees. Part of this is to create a fire break between the woods and the cabin, and part of it is because trees like this giant one right here have started to show signs of dying, and I need to get it removed before it takes itself out. Also, these stands of trees right here where the bulldozer is currently knocking down trees, that is going to make way for some future projects yet to come. Those will be 1 to 2 years out, but while I have the help, I'm going to take it to clear these. The person who's running the bulldozer is also going to be leveling the back of the property. So all of that is coming up. I am really concerned with the lack of snow that I have this year here at the property. Here you can see what it looks like now. There is less than a foot of snow on the ground this year. This same time last year, there was a lot more snow. There was 54 inches of snow on the ground. The top of that snow pole is 72 inches or 6 feet tall. And at the bottom, there's about 4.5 feet of snow. Here you can see that it's still under a foot in the back. And if we don't get any more snow this season, I'm afraid that we might be in danger of having a fire this summer. I actually have some projects that I need to be starting inside the cabin today, but before I do that, you guys have been asking me to reintroduce some cooking back into my videos, and I'm actually starving at the moment, so right now is as good of time as any to do this. What I'm going to be making myself for lunch today is a poke bowl. If you're not familiar with poke, it is a dish that originates out of Hawaii. It's typically made with ahi tuna. Since I live in Alaska and not Hawaii, obviously, what I'm using here is some Copper River red salmon. This was a salmon that was caught by a friend of mine this past summer. I've just gone ahead and cut this up into steaks. But now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be cutting away the outer skin and these bones. There's still some bones running down this middle section here. I'm going to cut all that away and cut it into 3/4 inch pieces. It is always recommended when you're doing sushi to freeze your fish to a degree of 15 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe, for a number of at least 7 days. And that will help to kill any potential parasites that might be in the fish itself. When you're preparing your fish, you want to make sure that all these little pin bones have been removed. A lot of times you'll see people use a pair of tweezers or maybe a pair of kitchen pliers to do it. In my case though, I am just going to pull these out with my fingernails. Once I have that all cut up, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in a bowl, and then I'm gonna marinate it. That marinade is going to be made of the following ingredients. 1 teaspoon Hawaiian sea salt, which is very similar to a pink Himalayan salt. And then 1 teaspoon crushed red chili peppers, dried crushed red chili peppers, of course. 2 tablespoons of toasted sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and then I have some ogo. This ogo is dried Hawaiian seaweed. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to place that in a bowl, cover it with some lukewarm water, about 2.5 cups worth. Let that sit for a couple of minutes. I'll wring out the water, slice it up, and then mix that in with my marinade along with some white parts of the green onion. Typically, if you're eating shoyu style poke bowls, it's made with a sweet onion. However, you know, a bulb onion that's been chopped up. However, since I don't eat onions because they have a high sulfide content and I'm allergic to the sulfides, it's actually a food sensitivity, but nonetheless, I'm using green onions because they're lower in sulfide content. So once I have all that marinated, it will then go into the refrigerator or ice box in my situation, and it'll marinate there for about an hour. The next project that I have actually is taking place in this room. This room is my pantry / laundry room. And it used to house about 4 freezers in here. Not about, there were actually 4 freezers in this room. The other night when I was preparing dinner for my friends, it was because they came over and helped me take 3 of those freezers downstairs. I do have a root cellar in my cabin, and it is always below freezing down there during the winter months. So it's a better place to house the majority of the freezers. This freezer though, however, is remaining up here because it is housing a couple of things for me. One is meals that I need or want to eat over the next month or so I can just quick grab something, thaw it out, and eat it. The other thing that this is housing for me is the ice blocks that I use to keep my ice box cold. And typically that's really only a summer issue that I have to worry about that. In the winter time, I actually don't have enough going on generally to even use the big ice box. Let me show you what the ice box looked like before I ran into town to help my friend. This time of the year, I don't use my ice box. As you can see, it's completely empty. And that's because I don't have any fresh produce. I'm not really buying fresh dairy this time of the year. Instead, I'm just using the ice box that I made. And in here, you can see that I have a little bit of cream, a little bit of some chipotle chilies, some leftover green onions that my neighbor bought for me while I was in town. And then in the bottom of this is where I'm storing all of my potatoes, which I still have plenty of. And then this unit here is completely empty. Now I thought about using this to store root crops, but it really didn't work out because there's no ventilation in here. When it comes to this room, I have 4 projects that I will be completing in here. And the reason I need to give this room a deep clean is because I'm actually starting with the floor in here. Now, when I did my bathroom, I put down vinyl plank flooring in there, and I decided after doing that, I did not want that to go anywhere else in the cabin. And the majority of the cabin, other than that bathroom, has plywood down right now. It has no traditional flooring on it. And this room is no exception to that. However, it'll be a while before I actually get flooring put into the cabin. And I need to make sure that this floor is water resilient. I can't really waterproof it unless I were to put something down like linoleum, which I am not going to do because whatever flooring I put into the rest of the cabin, I would like to bring that flooring into this room as well. However, in the meantime, like I said, I need to give it some type of waterproofing, water resistance treatment And so what I'll be doing in here is hand painting the floor and then sealing it with some polyurethane. After that, then I will be replacing this old 1980 style paneling that's on the walls. All this paneling is going to be coming down for a couple of reasons. One is I need to be able to see the studs behind it to attach the new wall treatment, but also I'd like to see if there's any gaps in the insulation that's behind this. That way I can fill any of those in before putting up the new wall treatment. And then after that, I will be building a sweater drying rack in this room. And I will also be closing in this pantry here and making it more of a cupboard as opposed to open shelving. Even though this is a utility room, and I've been accused of being a bit of a girly girl, that is no lie. I am a bit of a tomboy and a girly girl all mixed together. And when it comes to where I live, I do like nice things. I'm very guilty of that. So this is going to get closed in. Flooring's going to get done, or the floor is going to get painted. New wall treatment going up. And then, like I said, that sweater drying rack. And I also have a new, well, you'll have to tune in next week to see what I have going on in this room as well. An upgrade to my laundry system. And no, it's not an electric washer. Sorry, folks. I'm just not that much of a girly girl. Anyhow, with that being said, I do have a couple other things to show you before I finish showing you that poke bowl and how I'm going to finish it out, and how it's typically served if you were to go to a restaurant and get it. Anyhow, let me show you the couple other things and then we'll get right back to that poke bowl. While I was in town picking up materials for the laundry room makeover, I priced some lumber for some of the outdoor projects that I mentioned in that older clip that I showed earlier in this video. And I decided there is no reason why I should be buying lumber for some of these projects when I have perfectly good trees here on my property that I can use. Because some of those projects include an outdoor kitchen, a greenhouse, a couple new outhouses, and I'm going to be fencing in a portion of the back of the property. And I'm not sure that I'll be using logs or timber off of my own land for all of those projects, or just one or a couple of them. But nonetheless, I picked myself up a draw knife because this was a lot cheaper than buying, like I said, lumber while I was in town. And this draw knife is absolutely stout. I have some other draw knives in my collection of tools, but this one is, well, new for one, so it's really, really sharp, but it's also really heavy in comparison to the other draw knives I have. The other ones are really small in comparison to this. So this was one of the things that I wanted to show you and tell you that, yes, there are going to be some outdoor projects coming up probably this year, this summer, hopefully. But one of the other things I want to share with you was this painting that was sent to me by Jason Davis. Jason Davis has sent me another painting, which I have in my bathroom. It is a beautiful painting, and this one is no exception. Jason, thank you for this, and I do hope that you are getting back on your feet. I know you've had some health issues, some surgeries and things like that, so my prayers and thoughts are with you along with everybody. But thank you, Jason, for this. This is absolutely gorgeous, and I know exactly where this is going to go. So these paintings that he has sent me, this being the second, I was thinking about it when I received it and how beautiful this is, but I was like, you know what? These mean a lot more to me than if I were to go out and buy a piece of art to fit in the cabin. I've seen a lot of Alaska paintings and what have you, but they just didn't really resonate with me because a lot of them have to do with areas of Alaska that I'm not in, or it's an Alaskan scene that's, you know, pretty stereotypical, but these have some sentimental value to them because one of you, a viewer of the channel, has handmade these specifically for me. So thank you, Jason, again for this. This is absolutely gorgeous. And no, it's not going to sit in the kitchen. I'll show you in a later video exactly where that will be going. But with that being said, it's been about an hour. My phone actually died while, well, while the stuff was marinating in the refrigerator. So let me pull that out and I'll show you exactly how to assemble a poke bowl and show you how delicious it actually is. Now you can eat poke by itself, but in my case, I am serving it over some sushi rice. And then I've gone ahead and added in some sliced cucumbers and jalapenos and some pickled ginger. It's also common to eat it with edamame or avocado, julienne carrots, a whole array of things. Even pineapple or mango could be added to this. In my case, this is what I've done here today. And now that I've got this all ready to go, I am going to eat this and then I'm going to get started in that laundry room. I cannot put it off any longer, but you'll have to tune in next week to see exactly what I do in there. Oh, so good.